Mohamed Salah's transfer to a new club, Alphonso Davies is being dropped by Real Madrid for Barcelona flick, Neymar's new club. The Brazilian will leave Al Hilal this winter. The historic defeat of Jose Guardiola, and the return of Jose II and Mourinho to the English Premier League. We're talking about this and much more today. Friends, this is Dose of Football, and a hot selection of the most interesting news to this hour. Friends, the next video we are collecting for 5,000 likes, and we continue to work without weekends. To see yourself tomorrow, charge your royal like today. Well, I wish you a pleasant appetite and a pleasant viewing. Pep Guardiola has no intention of leaving the team on a minor note. Like a true ship captain, he is ready to stay with the club, even if Manchester City is sent to the championship. The dressing room is confident that Guardiola will extend his contract. If the mood was pessimistic at the start of the season, now the players believe that the coach will stay for another season. The official announcement may come earlier than the club's decision. The management eagerly awaits Guardiola's decision soon. Well, to get ahead with future planning. This adds responsibility to the Catalan. He has to make a difficult decision under uncertainty. Guardiola prefers leaving if the club remains in the elite, but a decision must be made soon. Most likely, the coach will still express his desire to stay with the team, and then we'll see. In case of a downgrade, he will have a chance to fully restructure the team, which could be an interesting challenge. Because there are clear problems in the team. The Catalan has lost 4 matches in a row for the first time in his career. This time, he was defeated by Brighton. Not to say that the townspeople really deserve to lose, but they didn't take advantage of their opportunities. And the Seagulls, on the contrary, that's how you get a historic defeat. The most problematic zone is the center half. Rodri is on crutches. Kevin De Bruyne is more occupied with dreams of big contracts in the Saudi League, where there is no pressure at all. Gundogan, well, let's be honest, at the end of his career, and Bernardo Silva, although cheerful, is contemplating leaving, especially if the club gets relegated to the second division. Many players are planning to leave Manchester City at the end of the season. Some for career ambitions, some don't want to play in a less prestigious tournament, and some just want to change. Therefore, Guardiola will probably have to stay at the club for another season to prepare a new team and create a solid foundation for himself and his successor. This is necessary regardless of the outcome of the legal proceedings. Pep is still important for City. One more season and then he can leave, finishing his stage in England. There are also rumors that after finishing work at Manchester City, Guardiola will go to South America to lead the Brazil national team. The federation desperately needs a fresh perspective. The team, once known for its style, has lost its former shine, and the players are not performing at their best when playing for the national team. Guardiola has long wanted to test his skills in the national team, and working with Brazil could become a new challenge for him. This is an opportunity to bring back the passion for football and breathe new life into a team that fans dream of seeing victorious on the international stage again. It's clear that Guardiola is already tired of England, and he's ready for changes. Mourinho is even dreaming of working in the Premier League after the Turkish Championship. The Portuguese coach's career is in decline. First, he took the championship with Chelsea, then some cups with Manchester United, and even managed to win an international trophy in Rome. But still, the quantity and importance of awards is decreasing. Still, the Portuguese remains ambitious. According to the information from the authoritative portal, the next goal of Mourinho's work is in Nicosia. Soroki has long ceased to amaze football fans. From around the first season, Eddie Howe leads the team. Red coach then managed to drastically change the situation. For the first time, he managed to pull the struggling Newcastle United up to the middle of the tournament table by his own efforts. He led the team to the Champions League before the new management brought in Dinjot. But more than a year has passed since that moment, and there is still no progress. However, the team's performance has declined. Last season, we failed to qualify for the Euro Cup, and in the current campaign, the team is in the lower half of the table. After impressive Champions League performances, the management and fans are pushing for a top 4 Premier League finish. Eddie Howe as if, and yes. The coach has implemented all his ideas and doesn't know what else to offer. He has already experienced this while working in Bournemouth. At first, everything went smoothly. Then there was a sharp decline and they were kicked out of the Premier League. Mourinho has the ability to inspire the team to reach new heights. Despite his long career and past achievements, the Portuguese continues to be passionate about football. The last match against Trabzonspor confirmed this. But if Mourinho does come to Newcastle, it will only be for a short period of time. Still doubting his ability to bring some kind of winning philosophy to the team, but he can provide a short-term boost, even to fight for some Euro Cup. Moreover, it's always fun with Mourinho. He knows how to heat up the degree of confrontation. I'll be glad to see him again in the Premier League. He's got the odds in his favor. Howe is on the verge of being fired. He'll be lucky if he makes it to the end of the season. And Mourinho, in case you didn't know, has a good relationship with the owner of Newcastle. They once crossed paths at some dinner, and since then, they've maintained a relationship. The Portuguese knows how to sell himself, and he's definitely charmed the management. Barcelona might not have enough money to register Dani Olmo. Even after signing a new contract with Nike, the deal is already done. The board members ratified the agreement. The American company's lawyers reviewed all the documents and signed the final agreement. Juan Laporte needs to get what he deserves. He played with Snake for a long time on the most difficult settings, and then he went straight to the competitors and threatened to end the long-term cooperation. He then said that present circumstances don't reflect actual markets. The Americans had to give in. They offered Barcelona a record sum from their own funds. According to media information, the Catalans will receive €1,700,000,000 for 14 years under the new agreement. On average, they will earn $130 million each season. Among European grands, no one even comes close to receiving so much money from their technical sponsor. But strangely enough, the deal with them will not allow Barcelona to return to the one-to-one rule. Let me remind you that depending on the depth of the financial pit, the league imposes limits on the expenses of this or that club. This should help them keep themselves in hand and gradually get out of the crisis. But in reality, it only complicates the process. The problem with Olmo's registration is that no one in Barcelona will immediately write a check for $100 million. The money comes gradually, but the Catalans need everything at once, and preferably a little more, and before the start of the January window. This is the deadline to report to La Liga about their positive balance. If Barcelona doesn't do this, they won't see Olmo's registration. But you can be sure of that. Joan Laporta will find another way out of the situation. He will either find a new solution or injure another footballer. One way or another, he will get out of it. Nevertheless, the financial situation at Barcelona is still troubling in the fourth year of Joan's rule, and the elections are not far off. It's hard to call this year successful for Kylian Mbappe. He began having issues with Luis Enrique and Paris Saint-Germain management in the spring. The Spanish coach was a hostage to the situation, simply obeying orders. Mbappe remained angry with him. Last season showed Kylian's future was not with Paris Saint-Germain. The long-awaited transfer to Real Madrid finally happened, seemingly allowing Mbappe to escape the French swamp and prove himself. However, at the European Championship, he did not look inspired by the transfer. His game remained as gray as the previous season, without thundering against rivals as before. But that's in the national team matches. In Madrid, he will show class. However, before the season began, there were concerns about his ability to secure a position on the field. Mbappe's preferred position is taken by Vinicius, who performs better in that role. So Kylian will have to play in the center or on the right. Many experts' expectations were confirmed. Mbappe couldn't fit into the scheme of Real Madrid. Moreover, he became the cause of disruption in the team's balance. He started blaming the coach for not putting him on the left flank. He's also inciting his teammates to worsen the situation regarding the coach's firing. He says Ancelotti is misusing their potential and doesn't deserve to work with the team. So Mbappe is already weaving intrigues against the Italian. In addition, it recently became known about the conflict with Deschamps. The French national team coach did not call him up for the upcoming Nations League matches. Mbappe was offended and now does not want to go to the team while it is coached by Deschamps. Many of Kylian's partners supported his opinion. They are tired of the same coach and do not want to see Zidane. So it turns out that wherever Mbappe goes, problems and chaos begin. When did he become the unpredictable diva that everyone must obey? Everything seemed fine recently. He won the World Championship with the team and made it to the Champions League final with a bang. And now Mbappe is tearing everything up, whatever he touches. And it would be okay if he just couldn't find a place for himself in the team. But on top of all this, the Frenchman is not performing on the field. Yes, he's also scheming in the locker room. Now imagine such a footballer is paid 30 million euros per season. It just doesn't make sense in my head. It became known how many points Vinicius was behind Rodri in the voting for the Golden Ball. I won't drag out the intrigue and say at the very beginning that the Brazilian was short of just 1 point. That's a small amount given the current voting format, where up to 15 points are awarded for first place. Let's look at the reasons that didn't allow the Brazilian to win the race for the Golden Sword. Well, besides the fact that he was worse than Rodri. And they are quite superficial, but they explain well how Rodri ended up above the Brazilian. The first reason I would mention is Vinicius' behavior on the field and beyond it. It's no secret that the forward behaves softly, let's say, provocatively. He conflicts with referees, with opposing players, and simulates in a disgraceful manner. And he does other things, not very pleasant to the eye. Take 2 recent matches against Barcelona and Milan, for example. In the first one, Vinicius tried to provoke the Barcelona players until Davies came out and gave him a slap. Well, moral ones. And in the second one, he actively argued with every decision of the referee, for which he received a yellow card. And do you remember his comical fall from a light contact with Maicon Menino? How many famous footballers allow themselves to behave so ugly? And now compare Vinicius and little P. Rodri. The Spaniard doesn't even have social networks. He doesn't get into scandals, but he is a key player both in the club and in the national team. Even playing as a central defensive midfielder, he manages to stand out so much that his contribution is noted by coaches, fans, and in every match. Just think, they hang a personal guard on him. The second reason is Real Madrid's success last season, strangely enough. Or to be more precise, the strong individual performance of several key players. Well, look, you're a journalist and you're thinking about how to distribute places in the ranking. You favor team play and understand that last season the best team was Real Madrid. You are faced with a dilemma here. You have to decide who you think is the best, Venice, Bellingham, or Dani Carvajal. The choice is not easy, but you think that Bellingham had a more individually strong season and you put him in first place, thereby taking points from his partners, Venice and Dani Carvajal. These 2 factors did not allow Venice to take the Golden Ball, but football did not lose from this. Finally, for the first time since Pavel Nedved, the most prestigious individual award has reached a deep playmaker. The Copa Trophy voting was more straightforward. Lamine Yamal confidently outpaced his nearest followers, scoring 130 points, while Arda Güler, who took second place, scored only 26 points. But there's nothing to argue about here. Yamal not only had a strong season compared to other players in his age category, he was one of the best players in the world. Even in the voting for the Golden Ball, Yamal ended up in 8th place. And that says a lot about the quality of the young Spaniard's performances. 16 goals in 10 matches. Almost half of the team's goals were scored by this footballer. And he recently destroyed Manchester City in the Champions League. Can you guess who we're talking about? Of course, he's on your screens, Victor Gyökeres. The Swedish forward won many hearts last season. He appeared poised to depart the club during the summer break. But he stayed in the club, and it seems like it wasn't in vain. Despite playing in the Portuguese league, Gyökeres is garnering attention across Europe. How has his performance been in the last 5 matches? 11 goals. That's more than 2 balls per game on average. The last one to show such phenomenal performance was Erling Haaland, and he joined Manchester City. Now all of Europe is wondering where the Swede will go after his phenomenal career in the Portuguese Championship. All the best clubs in Europe are vying for him. There's no doubt about that. But so far, Bavaria is showing particular enthusiasm. Despite having Harry Kane in the squad, the management is starting to work on the transfer of the Swedish forward. It keeps its finger on the pulse and gradually gains the trust of the environment of Dijk Riesche. If Bavaria is seriously considering buying a second forward, then it can be assumed that the company is ready to switch to a scheme with 2 central forwards. I can't imagine that such a talented player will sit on the bench for even a minute. This is pure betrayal for all of football. And you know who would really benefit from Riesche's transfer? To Real Madrid. If they muster the courage and actually sell one of the pair, Vinicius Mbappe, they should buy a forward. Everything was fine until Benzema was on the team. Even when Bellingham played as a shadow forward, things were great. But as soon as they gathered a pack of individualists, everything immediately went wrong. Real's philosophy. players with defined roles and strong mentality in the lineup. They should also be led by a mentally and physically strong coach. This team doesn't need anything more for success. As soon as they deviate from such a philosophy, problems immediately begin. They need a forward. And Ducar's transfer could become a salvation for the Madrid team. But personally, I would like to see Shved in Liverpool. But over time, it only gets worse for him. In the new season, they rarely let him on the field, realizing it's futile. The team is managing without him for now. But it's only a matter of time before they need the services of the central forward. Mbappe complained that he is not being put on the left flank of the attack. Poor him, he has to play on the right or in the center. This isn't his usual position. He can only unleash his full potential on the left in the attack. It is there that all his strong sides can be put into action. Speed, dribbling, and his working right foot. But luckily, Carlo Ancelotti heard him. When the question of the winner was removed in the duel against Osasuna, the Frenchman replaced Vinicius with flanges. And how did he perform? Not at all. Once Mbappe tried to lead the defender into the penalty area of Osasuna, but he let the ball go for a kilometer. The ball went out of bounds. He had another excellent chance to score, but from a good position, he shot directly at the keeper. That's how Mbappe showed himself on the left flank. He has only one ball in the last 7 games against Osasuna. After the Brazilian scored a hat-trick, Mbappe, even against Osasuna. After the Brazilian scored a hat-trick, Mbappe didn't even celebrate. And after the match, he was the first to leave the field. Reminds of Ronaldo's behavior at Manchester United. Everyone expected it to be a legendary return, but the Portuguese's conflicts spoiled the impression. The same thing is happening now in the relationship between Real Madrid and Mbappe. He rebels against Ancelotti, insisting on returning to his preferred left flank, not realizing the position isn't the issue. Mbappe just gave up. What has he done over the past year? What achievements can you recall from the Frenchman? He didn't help Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League, didn't shine for the French national team, and his start at Real can be called a failure. If it weren't for the goals from gifted penalties, his statistics would have been catastrophic. But even so, it's hard to describe it in positive terms. Mbappe's performance is not Real's only concern. You must see the Vinicius show and the failures of Kylian on our Telegram channel. I conducted a small investigation and can boldly declare that this is the best football channel in the entire Telegram. And it only gets better from here, so the link is in the description and in the pinned comment. Despite the crushing score, fans will primarily remember the match against Osasuna for its negative aspects. In the first half, 3 real players were injured right away. Rodrigo was subbed off at the 12th minute with a muscle injury. He will miss the next month. The Brazilian, incidentally, has just recovered from a previous injury, but now he must return to the infirmary. But it will be a chance to test the young players. How much worse are Eder Militao's injury conditions? In the middle of the first half, the Brazilian fell on the lawn with terrible screams. And he had to be carried off the field on a stretcher. Real's press service confirmed Militao has a cruciate ligament rupture and will miss the rest of the season. Meanwhile, the Madrid club's defense already had problems. After Nacho left, there were no players left who could replace the central defenders. The biggest blunder of Florentino Perez and Ancelotti's transfer policy. There is an urgent need to come up with some brilliant plan on how to replace the Brazilian. Luckily, the club is adapting to playing without Militao. And the third one got injured. The team is getting used to playing without Militao. Lucas Vazquez, the third one, got injured. He'll be off the field for a few weeks. But, as I just said, it's not scary, because ahead of us is the international break, during which the Spaniard should have time to recover. Last year, Alphonso Davies' name was actively associated with Real Madrid. Since Marcelo's exit, the Slivs have struggled to find a suitable replacement for the left side of the defense. Ferland Mendy is not such a bright and not such a stable player. In the current season, it's clear that he's not quite up to the level of such a big team. He will eventually be replaced, but by whom is unclear. Not just Real Madrid is keen on Alphonso Davies. He is also being courted by Barcelona and Manchester United. Hansi Flick wants to see his former protege at Camp Nou. He even contacted the footballer about a possible transfer next season. If before everyone was sure about the player's transfer to Santiago Bernabeu, now there are doubts. Still, under the guidance of Hansi Flick, Davies had the brightest stretch of his career. Since the German coach left Bayern, the Canadian player's performance has declined significantly. Moving to Barcelona will mean for Davies a return under the wing of his favorite coach. and also a chance to once again become one of the best fullbacks on the planet. In favor of Real, they say continuous ties, which Madrid supports with the player's entourage. He could have ended up at Santiago Bernabeu last summer, but the Madrid decided to wait until his contract expired to get the player for free. Now they will have to compete with Barcelona as well as with Manchester United. But moving to Old Trafford is risky, as no one knows what to expect from the Red Devils in the near future. They definitely won't be relegated from the Premier League, but MU has already managed to sink a couple of good coaches. Therefore, we need to see how Amari's career unfolds at Old Trafford. I believe that the battle for the defender will take place between two Spanish giants. One has good negotiators and the status of the best club in history, while the other has a coach to whom Davies is strongly attached. Let's see who ultimately wins this battle. Neymar's transfer to Saudi Arabia can easily be considered the worst in football history. The management of the Saudi club paid Paris Saint-Germain 90 million euros. The club also offered the player a 2-year contract worth 160 million, as well as a private jet, a personal car park, and a servant. All this just so he could play 7 matches and score 1 goal in a year and a half with the team. Football history is rife with examples of big money transfer failures. Anthony's transfer to Manchester United, Eden Hazard to Real Madrid, Fernando Torres to Chelsea. No one predicted that the Brazilian would retire after his contract expired. But the next one predicted the Brazilian would retire after his contract expired. But the forward wants to continue playing football if his health allows. 2 American teams are currently interested in him. Neymar might move to his brothers in Inter Miami, or return to Santos, where his football career began. The Brazilian is currently closer to the second option. The club's management is ready to break the bank for Neymar's return. He is offered a decent fixed rate, as well as bonuses from the revenues of broadcasting and merchandise sales. Inter Miami's conditions can't match those of the Brazilian club. He also has problems with the salary cap. One of the club's representatives stated that Miami can't sign expensive players right now, unless the league management changes the financial control rules. They might be able to satisfy Neymar's financial ambitions. But for now, everything is leading to the Brazilian returning to his native Santos. Moreover, his return could be a matter of a few months. Al Hilal's management is in talks with the player to end his contract early. The Saudi club likely gets no gameplay benefit from Neymar. In the remaining half a year, he is unlikely to regain his form and show super performance. So, there's no point in keeping him on the team. It's easier to negotiate a termination, saving a couple of tens of millions. Preliminary reports indicate Brazil will be a free agent by the January transfer window, just in time to start preparing for the new season in the A-Series. Santos is currently experiencing difficulties. Last year, he was relegated and went to the second division. But with 3 rounds to go until the end of the season, he is in first place in Serie B and has almost guaranteed his return to the elite. In Brazil, they will be happy to see Neymar again, especially in his hometown Santos, where they have special feelings for the player, somehow the most successful graduate of the academy since the time of Pelé. Salah has hinted at possibly leaving Liverpool after this season. He recently stated that he will never forget what it was like to score goals at Anfield. It seems not so unequivocal, but the feeling does not leave that this is his last season in Liverpool. And here's information from the Sport Portal, which says that he will continue his career on the fields of Barcelona. At the same time, Salah does not look like that footballer. Who's ready to retire. He is in great shape. And in general, it's as if he's had a second wind. I didn't want his career to stagnate because of the move to Saudi Arabia. As long as Salah can play high-level football, I want to see him on the European continent. Ideally, he would go to Liverpool. However, he could delay moving to Saudi Arabia and join the Turkish league instead. It's not the strongest league either, but it would allow Salah to compete in European tournaments, most likely in the Champions League itself. The beautiful Galatasaray has shown interest in him. Mauro Icardi has suffered a serious injury that will sideline him until the end of the season. Despite this, the team has many strong players who can take on the Argentines' responsibilities. I don't think anything will threaten Galatasaray's first place. So, he will be playing in the Champions League next season. In addition to participating in Europe's most prestigious tournament, Galatasaray can offer Salah 20 million euros per season, not counting signing bonuses and other perks that the management is ready to go for the transfer of the Egyptian. If I were Salah, I would agree to move to the Turkish Championship. Of course, if it comes down to choosing between Saudi Arabia and the Turkish Championship, I prefer Istanbul. Although this is all, of course, until they show me. That's all for today. Thanks for watching and subscribing. My name is Kirill Cast, and this was your daily dose of football. Peace to your house and Johanga, friends.